All right, so real quick, let's go over the lesson reviews. Is a virus a living thing? No, it's not a living thing. It can't reproduce on its own. It can't maintain its homeostasis. It has nothing to homeostase. Um, and they're not cells. They're not made of cells, and they are not individually a cell, so they're not alive. For examples of human diseases, there's a lot. HIV, AIDS, the cold, the flu, COVID-19, West Nile, Zika. There are others, but you only had to name four. All right, let's skip through the notes. There's other videos for the notes. This one's just for the lesson reviews. How are bacteria classified? By their shape: sphere-shaped, rod-shaped, or spiral-shaped. How are they like our cells? All cells have four things in common. They have cell membranes, they have DNA, they have ribosomes, and they have cytoplasm. How are bacterial cells different from our cells? Bacterial cells are prokaryotes. That means no nucleus, no membrane-bound organelles. The DNA is a single circular chromosome, whereas human cells have 46 chromosomes that are kind of X-shaped. They have two additional features that our cells do not. They have a cell wall and flagella. Some bacteria also have a capsule outside to help protect them further. The bacterial flagella is a tail-like structure that helps bacteria move. As the flagella rotate, they spin the bacteria and propel them forward. All right, 5.3, describe two ways that bacteria obtain nutrients and energy. They can get energy by mutualism, where they both benefit the two organisms. So that's kind of like gut bacteria that live in your intestines. They feed off of your waste, but they also produce um, uh, vitamins that we absorb into the bloodstream from the intestines, and then we benefit. So everybody benefits. Parasitism, that's where the bacteria benefits while harming the host. They can get nutrients by decomposing material in soil or dead things or waste. Photosynthesis and chemosynthesis. What is an example of mutualism with a bacteria? Nitrogen-fixing bacteria have a mutualistic relationship with the roots of legumes like pea plants and peanuts. Gut bacteria, as mentioned before, have a mutualistic relationship with the host. What is an example of a photosynthetic bacteria? Cyanobacter, or cyanobacteria, also sometimes called blue-green algae, although they're not algae, they're bacteria. Describe the importance of chemosynthetic bacteria. Plants need nitrogen, but they can't use the nitrogen in the air. It has to be fixed by the chemosynthetic bacteria in their roots or in the soil. All right. Bacteria reproduce asexually, where the parent basically clones itself. They can exchange DNA through conjunction. And binary fission is a type of asexual reproduction in which the parent cell copies its DNA and then divides into two different cells. In transformation, bacteria pick up pieces of DNA from the environment. So, for example, one bacteria dies, another bacteria comes in contact with the remains. It can pick up DNA from that bacteria and start doing that bacteria. So a harmless bacteria could become harmful because of that. All right, 5.4. Bacteria are important as decomposers. They help produce medicines like insulin, and they help us digest food. And they are helpful in the production of cheese and yogurt and sauerkraut. Let's see here, strep throat, tuberculosis, pneumonia, leprosy, Lyme disease. All of these are caused by bacteria. Lyme disease is actually spread by ticks. It's caused by bacteria, but it is spread by a tick. Food poisoning can be prevented by cooking the meat thoroughly and washing surfaces and hands that come in contact with the raw meat. One of the easiest ways to cause food poisoning is someone might say touch chicken, raw chicken, and then they're like, oh, I'll cut up some apples. So then they don't wash their hands, or they use the same knife they cut the chicken with to cut the apples. And so now the apples have chicken germs on them. Okay? So cook and wash your hands and wash your surfaces. Bacterial diseases are treated with antibiotics. They do nothing. Antibiotics don't work on viruses. Now, you might have the flu and get a secondary infection like bacterial pneumonia. Then antibiotics are needed for the bacteria. So, moving on, 5.7. How are archaea different? Cell walls have peptoglycan in bacteria, but archaea do not. Plasma membranes of archaea are made of lipids that are different than the lipids in bacteria. And the ribosomal proteins in an archaea are similar to the ribosomal proteins in a eukaryote, not of a bacteria. Both bacteria and archaea reproduce asexually through binary fission. Archaea can also reproduce through budding and fragmentation, where pieces break off and form a new cell. And number 3, archaea are chemotrophs, but some are photosynthetic or form mutualistic relationships. And lastly, halophiles live in salty environments like the Dead Sea or the Great Salt Lake. Thermophiles live in extremely hot environments like hot springs, geysers, maybe even near a volcano. And then mutualistic relationships, the bacteria that live in guts of cows or termites that break down cellulose and release methane. They help these animals break down cellulose, a tough carbohydrate made by plants. All right, so that's the reviews. Stay curious.